For those of you who haven't seen Passengers, don't continue if you don't want spoilers. Now, for anyone who chooses to continue with this video without watching Passengers first, the movie is about a commercial spaceship called the Avalon, and it's full of colonists. The ship is headed to Earth's fourth colonized planet, Homestead 2, and it's a 120-year journey to get there, so all of the passengers are put into a near-death state to be transported without aging. However, something corrupts the system and a random passenger wakes up 90 years early. After spending a year alone and having no way to call for help or put himself back to sleep, the man, Jim Preston, makes the decision to purposefully wake up a beautiful girl that he falls in love with, Aurora Lane. Another year after that, so 2 years later in total, Chief Deck Officer Gus Mancuso, I think is the pronunciation, wakes up as well due to a defect in his pod that also caused over 600 defects within his body. So Gus does not get a lot of screen time because, well, his body's failing as soon as he wakes up. It's revealed that the ship is freaking out because there's a major malfunction that caused part of the ship to shut down, and the rest of the processors are trying to pick up the slack, but they can't. It turns out that a small meteor had breached the hull of the Avalon and caused a bunch of damage that needed a dramatic manual fix. Here's my question. Did the ship randomly wake up Jim Preston? That's the scenario the movie keeps insisting on, but somehow I doubt that's the case. We learn throughout the movie that Jim is not only a mechanic, but that he was given a discount ticket to Homestead 2 because his skill set was considered worthwhile and very needed. And the Avalon had very detailed information on each passenger. Remember, we were told that there was no internet access, as a message to Earth was going to take decades to send via laser beam. Yet, Jim was still able to look up video footage of Aurora and read every book she's ever written while on board the ship. That means this ship is storing an obscene amount of information on each passenger. Plus, during a Guess Who This Person Is game that Jim plays with Aurora, we're told that the names and jobs of each passenger appears outside of their pod, almost like a digital luggage tag. And we know that some things are restricted and only accessible with the proper ID band, as well as a needed clearance code. So all of the stuff that Jim finds was public information that any of the 5,000 plus people on board the Avalon could get to. And we can't even guess how much more about the passengers that the computer system might be holding back. What if there are certain fail-safe protocols secretly programmed into the Avalon's controls? For example, in the movie Alien, Special Order 937 says that any alien life forms must be taken back to Earth alive, and the crew is expendable in this scenario. But other than the science officer, no one else in the crew knows that that order exists. They wouldn't know how to look for it or find it under normal circumstances. I suspect that when the Avalon was hit by a meteor and the system panicked, it very deliberately looked for someone who could fix the problem. Obviously, a crew member would have been the best option, but since the Avalon was believed to be impenetrable and incapable of malfunctions, I wonder if there were any crew members who could have handled a non-textbook problem with the ship. If there were no staff up to the task, the next logical decision would be to go after someone like an engineer, a repairman, or a mechanic. Meaning, in an emergency situation, the ship didn't malfunction, it woke up exactly who it needed to fix its problem. Otherwise, the law of averages would have woken up somebody who would have been completely worthless in this situation, like a painter or a rich aristocrat. Waking up a mechanic was very lucky, and I don't think that the computer would have left that to chance. Meaning, in an emergency situation, the ship didn't malfunction. It woke up exactly who it needed to fix its problems. But then why only wake up one person? Well, maybe Jim was the most qualified. Maybe there wasn't anyone else with his talents on board. Or maybe when the damage occurred to the ship, it was so minor that the Avalon decided it could be handled by one person, thereby minimizing the amount of passengers who would have to die of old age before reaching Homestead 2. It would be the logical, effective, and productive choice for a machine to make. Okay, then why did the Avalon wake up someone who didn't have clearance to even access the damaged part of the ship? That one's a little trickier to answer, so let me change the scenario a bit. My best guess is that the ship intended to wake up Gus and Jim at the same time, which would lose the ship only one passenger / colonist and one crew member. But some glitch or other error delayed the process. So if Gus was partially woken up, as in something changed with his machine functionality, but he didn't get the injection required to actually wake up until 2 years later, that could account for how and why his pod damaged his internal organs, because it stopped functioning for someone in stasis, maybe even to the point where the pod partially opened and exposed Gus to the elements of the ship. And who knows how that might negatively impact your body when you're in a near-death state. If that's correct, then the Avalon indeed had a secret directive, but the ship had become so impaired that it couldn't carry out that directive in a timely manner. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed enough to like, subscribe, and share this video. I've also got a lot of other videos on my channel that you are fully encouraged to go check out. Plus, you can find me on Facebook at Say Halo Goodbye, which is my gamer tag, or Twitter at _Fanily.